Whoa, what's going on? It's October 1st, ladies and gentlemen. October the 1st, 2020. It's Thursday. It's 11:06 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm coming to you live from the VoiceMann Studios in Toronto, Canada. Halloween. This is Halloween. Wait, that's the wrong movie. That's the wrong movie. No, I know that. I'm just busting your balls. Hey, it is... What is it? 30 more days till Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. 30 more days till Halloween. Silver Shamrock, Silver Shamrock, Silver Shamrock, Silver Shamrock, Silver Shamrock, Silver Shamrock. You are all my children now. What? I'm fine. No, seriously, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm good. I'm fine. Hey, welcome to episode 109 of MCRAE Live, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. I'm just laughing at Halloween. I'm just like, oh God, it's October. I got to talk about Halloween. Hey, listen, I love Halloween. You guys know I love Halloween. There's just what is there to talk about that hasn't already been talked about 9,000 times? Well, I can usually find something. And that is what I have done. I have found something. So Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, my basic idea, my basic premise. Now, if you're not new to my channel, you know that I don't love Halloween 3. You know, I know for a lot of people out there, it is their favorite movie. They love it. You know, there's some out there that consider it like top 3. You know, I have always been of the mindset that Halloween 3, Season of the Witch is not a particularly great movie. However, I think the premise I've always believed that Halloween 3 has always had a lot of potential. And it's one of those movies that never really lived up to its full potential because for budgetary reasons in the sandbox that they were playing in. Their ideas were really good. Their concepts were really great. And yes, I mean, maybe had, Halloween 3 not been in the title, this has been debated for years, and there's really no way of knowing it for sure, but it's nothing new. I mean, people have been debating this for 35 years. If the title Halloween 3 had not been in the title of the movie and the movie was just called Season of the Witch, would the movie have done better? Would it have been better received? Maybe. Because certainly unless you were, attached to Fangoria magazine or, the horror community at that time, which was far more difficult to do back in 1982, then you would have had no idea that Halloween 3 didn't have Michael Myers in it. And were there people that did go to see Halloween 3 knowing exactly what the movie was going to be about? Yes, of course. But were there people that went to see Halloween 3 and that were stunned there was no Michael Myers in it and the only Michael Myers you saw was on the television at the bar or, whatever? Yeah. Because there's him at the, he's on the TV at the bar and then Halloween plays on the TV there in the room when Tom Atkins is tied up. So, I mean, yes, there definitely were. And it's not that I don't like the movie. I mean, I don't hate it or anything. It's not Halloween 5. It's not Halloween Resurrection. It's not Rob Zombie's Halloween, for God's sakes. But I've often wondered if, and again, I'm not saying this, but I've often wondered if, and they may not even realize it, that it's not like the people that just will die on a hill for Halloween 3. I often wonder if it's the movie they're really in love with or if it's the concept and the ideas. Because that's what I think are good. I don't think the movie's particularly that great, as I said. But I think the ideas and the concepts are very interesting. And the soundtrack is fucking amazing. I mean, it's fantastic. It's not a bad movie or anything, but there are people that I'm like, dude, it's not that good. like, no, it's fucking amazing. It's like, no, it's not. It's not. No, it's amazing. No, it's not. It's not. Has a lot of potential. And that's kind of how I've always felt about it. Now, there are some people out there that don't believe the movie should be remade at all. That if you are going to step into the world of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, that you should do a direct sequel to it today. I don't know. I think there's an opportunity that, and again, famous last words. I mean, this is what we always say, but if it's done right, if it's done well, if it's well written, I think there's an opportunity to sort of start again, but really, with a bigger budget, more time, really developing the characters, and really attacking the mythology a bit deeper for a potential remake. I've always been sort of on that side of the camp. But to be fair, it's because I didn't like Halloween 3 enough. And if you are a diehard fan of Halloween 3 and you will die on a hill for Halloween 3, well, then, yeah, you probably don't want it remade. I mean, if Halloween 3 to you is like Halloween 1 to me, or, whatever the case, I get it. I can intellectualize it. I don't understand it, but I certainly can get it. But I've always thought that there is something there. The thumbnail to this show today is one of my favorite images ever. It's the silhouette of the three kids trick-or-treating. And they're I don't know where this is supposed to be in the movie. I forget. I haven't watched the movie in a little bit. Because you know how they show different kids supposedly all over the country? When really it's not all over the country. This might be Arizona, maybe? When that silhouette comes on the screen of the kids, is that Arizona or where is that supposed to be? Halloween 3, fans in the chat will probably be able to let me know. Don't take a guess. Like if you actually do know, then let me know. I think it might be Arizona. But anyway, I've always loved that silhouette. Always. I think it's eerie. I think it's creepy. You could remove the face on the poster of Halloween 3. You know how it says Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, and there's that kind of that skull face or whatever, right? You could remove that and just have Halloween 3, Season of the Witch with just that image. Justin Simonson says, I think it's California. Okay. You may be right. Dr. Loomis, please. You may be right. I got to get that sound clip in there. Of course, I can just do it, I guess, but you may be right. Every kid in Haddonfield thinks this place is haunted. They may be right. Is there something wrong, Dr. Loomis? No, they may be right. Yeah, I know you've said that 500 times today. You may be right. So I've always loved that look. I've always loved that image. Just on its own, I think it's eerie. And the children, especially when you, I'm not saying they've done this, but I've seen some representations of that image where it looks like they've elongated the image just a tad vertically so that the shadows of the children kind of become longer than and taller than what they probably really are. I've seen some iterations of the poster or fan artwork, things like that. Sometimes it might even be official. I don't know. T-shirts and stuff. I've seen it done and I've always liked it. But the original image too, the one that's on the thumbnail, is fantastic. It's very eerie. And for me, I look at that image and I see Halloween. I see children. And for me, I sit back and I think, as much as, listen, there's nothing wrong with Tom Atkins. There's nothing wrong with that story that's going on there. But I thought, is there a way to incorporate the children more without it being a children's movie? Because I certainly don't want people to get the impression that I'm saying we should make it a Stranger Things kids movie. That's not what I'm saying here. Okay, let me reiterate that again. That's not what I'm saying. But Halloween at its core, well, I mean, certainly what it's become in North America, the commercialized version of Halloween is certainly at its core a children's, holiday. It's not really a holiday, but, it's for kids. It's for kids, right? I mean, when you go back into its history and back to paganism and all that, obviously it can get quite intense. But it's the children that are at its core. And in Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, although we did see the children and we saw them with their masks on in front of the television, the story was really focused on the adults and this exploration of this town, right? And they go to this town to go to the factory, to find out where they're making the masks and all that. And all that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But I really sort of think maybe we could balance it a little bit more. And it really comes back to looking at that image and that silhouette, that image of those children. There's a mystery there. There's a mystique there that I want to tap into. I want to explore. Who are those kids? What's going on? So I always thought that a remake would be best rather than a sequel, because you give yourself another opportunity to start from the ground up, fresh, learning the things you learned about Season of the Witch, and being able to actually build. Now, could you do that with a sequel too? Well, yeah, you could. But I guess maybe there's a bit of bias there because I didn't like Halloween 3 Season of the Witch enough to really care about the thing continuing. And we can get Tom Atkins in there, 90-year-old Tom. I don't care. I don't care. I didn't like the movie enough to care to ever see that character ever again. I just don't care. It's nothing personal. It's nothing. I don't hate Tom Atkins, for Christ's sakes. I'm just talking about this from a movie standpoint. It's a fine little film, but it hasn't affected me on a pop culture level the same way it has some. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you want a sequel to it, well, it's cool. It'll feed into the nostalgia, no doubt. But for me, I think there's no reason why you couldn't remake it. And as long as it's done well and done right, that you could have something pretty special. So my thought was to put a little more focus on the kids. Now, when I say focus on the kids, I don't mean Stranger Thingsify it. That's not what I'm talking about. I still want the movie to be very adult, very serious, a very serious horror film. But what I mean is that because Halloween at its fundamental core, the commercialized version is a children's holiday per se. Again, it's not really a holiday. That's where we should begin. And I think we should begin there. And yes, are there going to be some tropey things that I talk about? Sure. But I mean, it's Season of the Witch. It's not trying to, it's a remake of Halloween 3. We're not trying to cure cancer here. No one's expecting a remake of Halloween 3 to be the greatest fucking horror movie in the history of. It's not. I don't care about that. So will there be some tropey things? Yeah, maybe. But it's more about opportunity. And I think if you start with the kids, or start with a kid who moves to this small town, and it's unbeknownst, and again, it's not a kid's movie. Okay, I'm going to keep saying that because there's going to be people that are going to be tuning in every so often throughout this show today who are going to be thinking I'm talking about Stranger Thingsifying the fucking movie. That's not what I'm talking about. It's just the focus when we open the film up is on this kid, is on this family that moves to this town. And maybe it's, 10 days before Halloween or something, right? Or maybe you started even before that. Maybe you started, like at the beginning of the school year. And they've moved to this town. So it's late summer, early fall. That's where you begin it. And you move. So we have time to know this kid, know his family, know his friends, and everything seems normal. For all intents and purposes, it's normal. And there's a time there for us to get to know this kid or kids and get emotionally attached to them. But again, it's done in a mature way. It's not we're not Stranger Thingsifying it. Think like with the maturity of, and again, I hope people can nuance what I'm about to say here, but like with the maturity of like a Stand By Me, and I don't mean the movies like Stand By Me. I'm saying that the feeling you have when you're watching the kids, it's not a kid's movie. It's not for children. This isn't a little kid's movie that people are going to want to rent. There's a maturity about it. And they move to this small town, or this family does. And they go to school, and we see this, and we see these relationships being built. And Halloween's coming up, and we see that over the course of September. Now we're into October, and the season is changing, right? You know how I like my slow burns, and really sort of building that atmosphere up, leading you into something, creating a false sense of security. That's really important too, to create a false sense of security, to not peak too soon. And we get accustomed, and we like. This also actually would make a great TV show, by the way. Let me just say that. I think Season of the Witch is ripe for a television series. I wouldn't be adverse for the Halloween series continuing on in the television streaming format. If they decided to do this with like Season of the Witch. Michael Myers is fucking exhausted. I don't give a fuck about that anymore. But Season of the Witch or something like that, that's interesting to me. So what I'm saying to you, I'm also acknowledging that this could also work as a television series as well. You know what I mean? Because you have more time to develop and nurture characters and plot points and, all that kind of stuff. But you could certainly do it as a movie too. You just wouldn't have as much time. And so you take that time to nurture it, right? And to really sort of develop the relationship between these kids. And the parents are there. There's adults in it. Again, we're not Stranger Thingsifying anything. You know what I mean? It's nothing to do with that. You don't watch the movie and go, oh, this feels like Stranger Things. No, you don't. You don't. It's not Ghostbusters Afterlife. This feels like Stranger Things, but with Ghostbusters. It's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm talking about. You're smart enough to know what I'm talking about. And the parents are there, And I think the character, that Tom Atkins played in Halloween 3 is the father of this kid. Now, I know in the original Halloween 3, he didn't have any, well, that's not true. He did have a wife. He was actually a piece of shit guy, if you think about it. Tom Atkins' character in Halloween 3 was a piece of shit guy. He was a piece of shit. He ran off from his family and fucking, I wouldn't have him that way. I wouldn't have him that way in this movie. But he's the one. He's the one. Him and his wife and his kids and his family moved to this town. And he's been transferred, let's say, to this hospital close by where he's a doctor. You can still have him as a doctor, So there's still that's going to take place. But the focus at the beginning is with the kids. And we follow their relationship But what they don't understand, what this family doesn't understand, is that there is already a spell, for lack of a better word, that has taken shape, no pun intended, on the town. And they're unaware of it. A little tropey? Yeah, but it's fucking Season of the Witch. It's not the Shawshank Redemption. And they're unaware of it. And there's a discovery that ends up happening through the children and through, let's say there's two kids. I don't know. It could be one kid. But they start to notice unusual and strange things. And his dad is also beginning to start to notice unusual and strange things at the hospital. Because unbeknownst to them, the town really has been taken over. It doesn't look like it, but it has. So we're almost combining like an Invasion of the Body Snatchers sort of vibe to it, but yet they can function like they're not complete zombies. They can function as if they're, which is frightening, actually. Fucking scary. And yes, the masks do play a central role in this movie, but it's not Halloween time yet, right? And as Halloween begins to make its way into the season, not quite the faculty. I know what Nick P is saying, but not quite like that. Not quite like that. We're not going that far. We're not going that sensational with it. It's very subtle, very subtle. The faculty, you have aliens and shit. It's not like that. Not like that. Not that there isn't shit that doesn't happen, because there is, but not quite like that. But I get what you're saying. So, as it gets closer to Halloween, these masks start getting produced. They start winding up on the shelves, right? And it seems innocuous. It seems normal. And they're up on the shelves all over the place. All over the place. And a child winds up dead. This is my thought anyway. A child winds up dead. And it was let me see here. So not the main kid, but one of his best friends, his friends that he's made here, winds up found murdered. And the kid is blamed for it, for the murder. The kid's blamed for the murder. The kid didn't commit the murder. We as an audience know that. He knows that. His dad doesn't know that. The town has sort of outed him in terms of like, no, you've committed this murder. You have to go to prison or juvie or, whatever, right? And what's fascinating about this is that it's what I ideally want is there to be a focus on children in this movie. The innocence of childhood, the loss of innocence, how adulthood can invade childhood very, very quickly. There's very adult things that begin to happen to this child. And you can begin to see the manipulation of the children. And as we go on and as this kid gets put in jail and they're talking about trial and all this kind of stuff, we're getting closer and closer to Halloween. And insidiously, we begin to feel unusual things or see unusual things about people. It didn't start off like that. You don't know who you can trust. There's some people you think you can trust that turn around and stab you in the back, maybe sometimes literally, right? There's certain people that you feel that no, are absolutely 100% safe. It's good. And there's lots of surprises and twists and turns. It's got to be a movie or a story, I should say, because it could totally be a show as well, where there's that everything is on the table and nothing is off the table. It's got to keep you surprised that, wow, they went there. I didn't think they were going to go there, and they actually went there, which is why I think having the kid, and because again, it's about that. The Halloween commercialized North American version is very child friendly, right? But its history is not. So it's all about seeing the two worlds collide, which you do see a little bit in Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, but it's very adult focused. Right. And yeah, we see the kids watching the TV going, happy Halloween, whatever. Right. 10 more days till Halloween, silver sham. And they put the mask on and, you see them kind of run. But they're just kind of there. They're just there to fill the space because we know it's Halloween and it's there. But the focus of that story, which is great, there's nothing wrong with it, is very much about, the doctor going to the town with his, lady friend. Well, I do say so myself, Dr. Challenge, or whatever that fucking line is. So fucking lame. And there's great shit that happens there, but there's not that focus on the kid side. And I want to see the invasion. I want to see sort of the two worlds colliding, the history, because as we know, whatever is going on in this town, in my idea, right, is taken from paganism and taken from, Sam Hain and all the shit that I could go into that too. And I should actually, if I had more time, but, all the ritual shit that where Halloween actually comes from. It's very dark and very, very, unsettling, let's say. And then we see the innocence of childhood. We see the two worlds colliding. And that I think is very important to see that. And see, because although we saw a little bit of it in Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, I didn't feel enough of it. I didn't really feel it all that much. And I want to feel it here. I want to really feel it. And the only way that you can do that is if you actually, it's not Stranger Things, dude. It's not Stranger Things. Sounds like Stranger Things indeed. Nah, it's not. And that's one of the things that's part of the problem, is that if your only association with that kind of thing is Stranger Things, then you naturally default to it, right? But I don't know how old you are, man. I'm not saying you're not old enough, but I'm old enough to remember lots of movies that had nothing to do with Stranger Things that were like that. So it's more about the idea of, because again, Stranger Things has a very sort of self-awareness to it. This wouldn't. It's more playing it straight, right? And we also have to remember that Stranger Things is ripping off other things as well, right? So it's kind of like I understand why you would feel that way, because that's the most recent example, perhaps, that you can default to in your own mind that might sound, oh, it's supernatural in kids, right? But that's like anything. I mean, I see people go, oh, it's got kids. Oh, it's Stranger Things. Oh, it's got kids in it. It's Stranger Things. It's just people feel, oh, there's kids, because it's so popular and it was so well done that people automatically assume that it's now Stranger Things, right? But this wouldn't be anything like that. You know what I mean? It would be a much more serious adult approach to it. You wouldn't get that feeling. Like, you don't get that feeling when you watch, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something recently with kids, but I guess I can't at the moment. I'll try and think of that. But anyway, so it's very important to have the two worlds colliding. And what ends up happening is that, of course, they discover that the entire town is essentially not who they appear to be. And it starts to take over the country. But we actually now have a budget where we can see that taking place. In Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, this actually might make a better series. This might make a better series because you have more time to do this. You could do it as a movie, but you may run out of time and you may want to split it up into several parts. So this might make a better series, because I could see this being all like one season, like 10 episodes, right? But you begin to see that. You begin to actually see it taking place across the country where you never saw that before, right? And the focus on the adults is still there, but it's running tandem and parallel with what's happening with, and when I say kids, I don't mean that there's like kids going on an adventure. So that's one thing you have to understand too, Duke, is that it's not an adventure. It's not like these kids are on an adventure of discovery to solve the crime. That's not what it's about. This kid isn't solving anything. He's collateral damage, right? The adults are the ones that are still the focus in terms of needing to discover this, because if you think about it in realistic terms, how often do children band together and save the day? They don't fucking do that. They only do that in Stranger Things and the Goonies, right? That's not real world. That never happens. You know, did we as kids, if you're old enough, go on adventures in our imaginations like that? Yeah, we rode around on our bikes in the 80s and we pretended we were doing things. But did I ever actually go on a Goonies adventure and save the fucking world? No. Have any of us as kids gone on, you know, an adventure and saved the world? No, of course not, right? But so the main protagonists, if you will, would still very much be the adults, but there's the kids that are also very present there, because Halloween at its core, commercialized in North America, we cannot forget, is a children's event. And you saw that in Halloween 3, but I think we can bring it up even more. I think we can bring that up even more and nurture and develop that side even more. So it's able to tap into the child in all of us, and we can relate to that a little bit more. That's important to me. And I'm not afraid to kill off kids. Like, not that Halloween 3 wasn't either, but I'm not afraid. Like, I don't think we should, like, nothing's off the table. So killing, you know, the doctor's kid, I'm not against. Killing his whole family, I'm not against that at all. You know, I think raising, and I don't mean fake Marvel kill. I mean actually kill, gone, zilch, zero, dead, you're done. That's what I'm talking about, right? Of course, it has to serve the story, and it's got to make sense. You can't do it just for the sake of doing it. But I wouldn't be afraid in killing, and I don't just mean like you bring, like say it's a series, right? You bring somebody in who you get emotionally attached to and you kill off. No, I'm talking about killing off somebody major. You know, and because it raises the stakes and it makes it more interesting. I don't know. It just, again, like my thumbnail says, this is the basic premise of what I'm thinking of where we should head with Season of the Witch. There's a lot of things that you could continue to flesh out and develop, but I think that's the mindset of what we should be thinking, because there's so much untapped potential with Halloween 3 Season of the Witch involving the kids that I want to see more of that. And we could have a budget now where we can go to New York, actually go to New York, you know, go to St. Louis, come up here to Toronto, you know, go over to the UK, you know, wherever, and see shit going down and actually see landmarks that tell you we're in those places. You know, and maybe we spend a little bit of time in those places, right? Do you know what I mean? I mean, Halloween's not quite as big over there as it is here, but I think you know what I'm trying to say. And I've always felt that that's always been a very untapped area when it comes to Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. And the more that I talk about it, like I said, as I walk through this basic premise, the more I feel that this might make a better series, because it may be too... And again, I don't say that because Stranger Thingsing it. I say it because with television, you have more time to develop. You have more time, you know, essentially one season, if it's 8 or 10 episodes, is like an 8-hour or 10-hour movie, you know, whereas opposed to 2 hours, right? So there is that time that you can take with characters and story and nurturing that nuance and really sort of building that emotional journey and that ride to where it needs to go. I think in a lot of cases, when it comes to that kind of thing, television is where you got to be. So the more I think about it, the more I think this might be suited for television, which I would be okay with. Because obviously they're going to look to what do we do after Halloween ends, right? What are we going to do? You know, and I'm not against, I'm not a big fan of the Loomis kind of thing, because I don't think that he should ever, anyway, that's a whole other thing. But, so the kid's on trial, not on trial. It's not going to go to trial. Or maybe he does. I don't know. Those are the things we can flesh out. But this kid was charged with the murder of his friend. And the friend really did die. The kid really didn't do it, right? Now we're like well into October. You know, we're getting close to Halloween. We're starting to discover there's weird things in the town, right? There's some unusual things in the town, right? Some weird things at the hospital, right? And we can also start to discover, you know, certain things about the doctor's life, right? And why he was transferred there, you know, and maybe there's something integral in his career or in his life that brought him there. Maybe was he summoned there? Not actually summoned, but you know what I'm saying, right? Who knows? You know, will the kids survive? Maybe all the kids die. Like I'm not adverse to that. I'm not adverse to actually killing all the kids. You know, I think that would be interesting to me, like killing all the children. So it's just the adults that are left, you know, because you see, Stranger Things doesn't have the balls to do that because, you know, it's predicated on the kids and the fantasy and the childlike imagination, right? It's a kid's show, essentially. But we as 40-year-old men love it because it's tapping into our nostalgia when we were kids in the 80s. You know, and for those of you that are not old enough to remember the 80s, you like it because of the adventure side of it, but you can't necessarily directly relate to the nostalgia side of it, right? But you like it because of the adventure and the special effects and the, you know, and all that. That's not what this is. It's not a kid adventure. You know, kids will die. Kids, not kid, kids will die. And I'm not afraid to like, there's a lot of shows that I watch. Like, I'm talking about having the maturity of and I say this not as complex, not as complicated, okay? Not as complicated in terms of subject matter, but the feel and the sense of maturity of a show like Dark, right? Now, again, not the subject matter, not the complexity, but the feeling of maturity when you watch it. You don't feel like you're watching a kid's show, you know? And when I say kids, I'm not talking about like, you know, 8, 9, 10-year-old kids. You could be fucking 13, you could be 12. You know, maybe some are teenagers, right? We see some like high school kids getting fucking, you know, now they're not necessarily trick-or-treating, but everybody's being affected by what's going on by the I don't know what to call them, aliens, but the invaders, let's say, that have taken over this town and this factory to kill all the children. Because that's what they want to do. They want to kill all the children. Like, that is what Season of the Witch is all about, right? Is getting the masks on all of the children, right? That's what it's about. And it's about to kill they want to kill the kids, essentially. Yeah, Frank. So it's like Hunger Games. No, it's like planes, trains, and automobiles. That's what I'm saying, Frank. It's like planes, trains, and automobiles, right? Well, actually, no, it's more like Uncle Buck. It's more like Uncle Buck. You know, so you got the kids, you got the, you know, the big guy, you know, big fat guy, you know, and you make fucking large pancakes and pizzas. That's what it's about. That's what I'm talking about. So it's important. The fundamental thing that I think is vital to this kind of a story is the merging of the two universes, right? The commercialized version of Halloween, but where Halloween actually comes from. And Halloween 3 Season of the Witch does that, but I, at the end of the day, think the child side of it is largely lost. We just really see them kind of there with masks on. They're there because you need kids in a Halloween film, I guess. But I think there's so much untapped potential for that. And anyway, back to what I was saying. So the kid is in jail, let's say, right, for murdering his best friend. And the reason why, this is where it gets really complicated. I'm trying to simplify this. So there's like how do I say this? It's more like it's the kid, like when we're introduced to the kids at the beginning, they are the catalyst that is really driving us to the bigger picture of the story, if that makes any sense, right? So you think you are like it, and I think it's very important that when we are introduced to the kids, or that when we start this kind of a story or movie, we start out of the gate from a narrative perspective that we are immediately reminded of the childhood innocence of what Halloween is. And that is the commercialized version of it. And that's why we start there, right? We start with something familiar to the audience, something the audience already knows, something the audience can pick up on, right? Something the audience feels comfortable with. Oh, I recognize this. This is kids. I was a kid once. I can say, oh, these are kids. But it doesn't end up there. It ends up in a very dark and mature place, right? And that, I think, is really important, you know, because you think it's going to be one thing, but it ends up being another thing really at the end of the day. And it's darker than you would expect. Like, I mean, children will die, and children will die violently. You know, not Marvel death, not Stranger Things, not, oh, they're gone, oh, they're back, oh, they're gone, oh, they're back. No, I mean like serious death. Not afraid to kill kids. And it's dark. And if that sounds dark, like, well, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Because I think that's where you need to go. Because you need to show the contrast of the two sides, right? And if you don't show that, then it's just sort of another kind of, you know, you need to take risks. You have to take risks. And like I said, the more I talk about this, the more I think this would be better suited for television, because you can take that time, you know, and you can really nurture that and make people feel it a bit better. Because it really is about that invasion. There's an invasion. You know, it's not a kid's story. It's just that the kids have to play a more of a fundamental, central, that idea needs to be there a bit more. And I don't think it was explored as much in Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. So anyways, I'm going off on a yeah, Calford's dog says, Dave's not afraid to kill kids, folks. I do, Aaron. I hate fucking children. I do. Fucking children suck. They fucking suck. Yeah, they fucking suck. So because this child is on trial, what you've done now is and again, there's a subtext there, right? So you put the kid on, not on trial, but you put the kid in jail. So you remove the kid from a innocent child sort of environment immediately to an adult environment. And the kid is now being charged with murder. The kid is now, again, hope you can see the layers there. The kid is now entering an adult world, right? There's subtext there. And the parent is forced to look at their child in this adult world. And again, we're getting closer and closer to Halloween. And my thought was where this ends up going is, it's funny. It's like, you think it's going to go one way, and then it ends up getting like, holy shit just got real. Like, have you guys ever watched a series or watched a movie where you've been like, shit just got real? What the fuck? Okay, I did not expect it. I didn't think we were like, what the fuck, right? We've all watched shows or watched movies where there's that moment that's happened, right? There's that moment where it's like, oh shit, wow, okay, I did not expect that. I did not expect that we were going to do this, right? That is sort of what I'm talking about in terms of where it's going to go. And the kid doesn't survive. Let's just put it that way. The kid doesn't survive. And I'm trying to think if I should say how. It gets really dark. You know, I don't mean gratuitously, you know, but it gets like, oh, wow, they're not afraid to do that. Like, for example, like I said, at the end of, now I'm joking And I understand why it would be an issue and why it would have been an issue in 1988. But it's like when I said, like, at the end of Halloween 4, the return of Michael Myers, right? I always make that funny joke about how, and he was going to do it if Meeker didn't step in, but how, can you imagine if Loomis actually blew away Jamie Lloyd at the top of the stairs? Can you imagine that? Actually, no, and we actually saw. Now, obviously, there's a lot of reasons why that may not be the best choice. If you try to get it past the censors, why it probably wouldn't have gone past. It still probably wouldn't. But that's what I'm talking about. Think about that. Think of how you would have felt seeing that, or at least even the suggestion of that. Like, you don't even have to see it. You didn't have to see Jamie going, and like being pelted with bullets. All you would have had to have seen was Loomis going, no, and just seeing him firing his gun. And you would have been like, oh, because of the power of suggestion. And you would have done that. And you would have been like, what, did he, what? And all you would have had to have seen is just a hard cut to Jamie's body lying on the floor. All you would have had to have seen. And you would have been like, oh, holy shit, just got real. That's what I'm talking about. So there's a moment in this premise where there's a turn. And it's like, oh my God. And you think it's the moment where they find this boy's dead body, right? You think it's that. Oh, wow. It's a dead, you don't really, okay. All right. Wow. Kid's been charged. And there's no trial. It's not like it's a courtroom drama. I'm not saying all of a sudden we see the kid on trial. And who knows, though? I don't know. I'd have to flesh this out more. It's just the basic premise, right? And I'll recap here in a second because I know I've been rambling a little bit, as I tend to do. But sometimes, it's all organic. I try to be as organic as I possibly can with you guys. So I don't mean that it's a courtroom drama and there's like, 3 episodes of this series. I guess there could be, but not necessarily that all of a sudden there's 3 episodes of, fucking Matlock. It's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that he's been charged with this murder. And the doctor doesn't know whether his kid is innocent or not. And the kid is proclaiming, I didn't do this. And it's like, well, why would he be set up? Why are they setting him up? Why are they setting this kid up? Is there something the kid has? Is there something about the doctor's past? Are they using him for bait? Do they want to lure the doctor in somehow? And while all that is going on, the central kind of thing, other shit is starting to insidiously unfold. And you start to begin to unusual and weird things begin to happen around the country. You start to see things. And while this is happening, the silver shamrock masks are being sold on shelves and things like that. And they're being, they're being distributed. They're being manufactured. And we see it. We see them being manufactured. It's building to something. It's building to something, which Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, was building to something, but we never got to see what that something was. Not that we needed to see it, because it's a cool ending, right? Turn it off! Turn it off! I mean, yeah, okay, get it. It's great. It's great. It's iconic. Okay, great. But we never saw, we can imagine, but we never saw the end result of that. And my idea, basically what I'm talking about, is us moving in that direction, right? Heading to that direction, building that suspense up to that moment, not necessarily the exact same moment. We don't have the doctor going, who knows? But building to that moment where then the movie doesn't end, or the show, again, the series maybe doesn't end, but maybe that's the great ending of the first season, right? You know what I mean? But we were able to see the result of that. And we enter this totally different world, of what's happening, and what happens after that. And we begin to see children dying all over the country, and the parents not knowing what to do, and the parents being childless. And I mean, and they don't ever come back, folks. They don't ever come back. It's not like it's a magic thing where all of a sudden, at the end of the show or at the end of the movie, they're back. No, the children are fucking dead. They're dead. Yeah, I said, I want to go dark. That's how dark I want to go. And it's up to these parents that have to which is and again, I don't mean parents, I just mean their parents because they had kids. But you look at Tom Atkins from the first movie, and then then you move into that adult kind of area and that vibe. And there's the contrasting to the two worlds of Halloween, I think, is so important. And I saw remnants of that in Season of the Witch, but I don't know, I wanted more. And whenever I watch that movie, I'm like, this is fine, but it's so much untapped potential, so many things you could do. And yeah, you could do a sequel, I guess, but I've always been much more interested in restarting that again and building that contrast up in the first movie, so there's something that we can be emotionally attached to, rather than just this doctor who basically cheats on his wife, leaves his family, goes off and is just curious because he notices some weird dumb shit going on. Like, I'm like, that's really what Halloween 3 Season of the Witch is that he notices weird shit going on, leaves his wife. I mean, I know Nancy Loomis wasn't exactly, Miss Sunshine, but, still, right? He leaves his wife, he leaves his kids, he fucks off with this other young girl, and it's kind of like, I don't know. I just think there's more there. There's more that we could develop with that. And, whether the kid actually gets put in jail, whether there's a murder that takes place and the kid is whether that's the right thing to do or not, who knows? On second and third drafts, we may go through it again and go, no, actually, you know what? Maybe we don't do this, but we actually do this instead. Again, the fundamental reason why I, just off the top of my head, as I was thinking about this the other day, decided on maybe an idea that could be fleshed out a bit more about how there's this murder in the town and the kid is charged for it. Or maybe it's not a kid maybe it's not a kid that's murdered. Maybe it's an adult that's murdered. An adult is found murdered and the kid is charged for it. That's probably what it should be. Is that it's not a child that's found murdered, although it could be because it's symbolic, right? There's a lot of symbolism around that, right? It's foreshadowing shit that's about to happen. And obviously it wasn't the kid that did it. It wasn't this guy's son that did it. It was them. It was them because he put on a silver shamrock mask and that's why he died. But he died this gruesome death and they think, what caused this death? Like what the fuck? Like his head is mutilated and shit and it's all over the ground. It's like it looked like somebody beat his skull in violently. You know what I mean? Like, that's how dark we get here. We don't necessarily have to see that, but we see the end result of it, and it's like, oh my God. Well, no, it's because the kid put a silver shamrock mask on, right? You know what I mean? And so you could, and then of course this kid, this other kid, his friend, is charged with his murder. But the reason, again, why I decided to do that idea is to bring the kid into an adult world. It's more symbolic than anything because we never see his trial. We never see him go to trial. It's just sort of like, it's that transition. It's that evolution. It's that you're no longer a boy, son. You're an adult now and you're entering this very sort of adult world because it's the adults that are running everything. It's the adults that have fucked up everything. It's the adults that have it's these invasion. It's these invaders that are masking themselves as adults, as human beings, to take over the world and do it through the children. And that's, and maybe not everybody who puts on a silver shamrock mask dies. Maybe there's other things in there too. You can be put under their spell. Maybe you put maybe there are certain silver shamrock masks that go beyond the pumpkin, that go beyond the skull, that go beyond the witch. It's not just those three. Maybe there's a line of three more. So in this show or remake, we use those three because that's a nice nod and homage, right? But maybe there's three more as well. And maybe there's certain masks that kill you, but certain masks that put you under this spell, of some kind. And again, done in a really mature adult way. Nothing cheesy about it. You don't watch it and go, no, not at all. Not at all. You watch it and like, it's fucking dark. Like, this is legit shit. Like, shit just got real here. That's what I'm talking about. And you build up this whole mythology and this universe of Season of the Witch, and it's building to this moment. It's building to Halloween, and I don't know. I think that for me is, again, it's the basic premise. So just to recap, you start with the childhood innocence side, the the kids, you start there, but not Stranger Thingsifying it. It's hard for me. I understand it's hard for a lot of people to remove that from their head because of how much kids and supernatural are now in the pop culture, and the granddaddy of that is Stranger Things. And I can understand why somebody would think that. But for those of you that are old enough to remember, it's easier for guys like me to kind of go, yeah, I don't necessarily have to think of Stranger Things when I think of that. I have a Rolodex of shit that was long before Stranger Things. I'm not talking about The Goonies or Stand By Me either. But anyway, so, but that's where we begin, right? And the reason is because, again, I want to begin with the commercialized version of Halloween. I want to show the kids being kids. You know, I want you to see them building up to Halloween, you know, build that relationship. And then there's the turn of the adults. And again, this premise itself, in and of itself, is not rock solid. It would need fleshing out. But I'm somebody that likes to lay down a basic premise and then start to weed away at it. So like I say, and I know I've been talking for almost an hour here, but like I always say, in the comment section below, I want you guys to think about what I've said here and sort of work off of that. Comment below in the comment section, think about what I've said and extend beyond that, right? You know, or say to me, oh, you know what, Dave, I like that idea, but instead of that, what about just this? You know, comment below and let me know. I want a lot of that as well. You know, I want people to sort of chime in and give me their thoughts on what I've been saying here, you know, and keep in mind symbolism, paganism, you know, the commercialized version of Halloween, of course, what we know in North America, Halloween to be and what it largely is. Think about the children and how you would utilize the children in this type of a story against the backdrop of adults, you know, and try your best not to Stranger Thingsify it, because you can do that. And how you Stranger Thingsify something really is you place the kids on an adventure. You place the children on an adventure of self-discovery as a Rat Pack team going out there as kids. And that's not what this story would be about. You don't ever see the kids banding together to go on an adventure that the adults have no idea what the fuck is going on. Like, that's the trope. And that's what I mean by it's not Stranger Thingsified, right? So there's no idea of, you know, there's this group of kids that go on this adventure of self-discovery and aliens and supernatural, and the adults are fucking dumb pieces of shit that don't believe them and have no idea what's going on. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about that at all. It's very balanced, and there's no adventure with the kids, right? It has nothing to do with that. You know, it's just that you start with the kids and you see them hanging out and you see them, you know, you want to see them talking about Halloween. You want to see them getting excited for costumes and things like that. So we can sort of get a base of what Halloween is today. That's more of what I'm talking about. And if you did a series, like a 10-episode series, that might be the first fucking episode. That might be it. That might be the first episode, you know? So anyway, yeah, that's kind of the vibe that I'm thinking. And by the time you get to the end of whatever that is, shit starts to hit the fan. And there is an apocalyptic sort of thing that is sweeping across the country. Children are dying. Adults are dying. You know, and it becomes very apocalyptic, you know, and there's this, you know, the season of the witch, there's this witch, so to speak. And I don't mean, my pretty, I don't mean that kind of a witch, right? I'm talking about witch used as more of a, as a title, as a witches can come in all shapes and sizes and all forms. It's not the wicked witch, the wicked witch of the West is not what I'm talking about. When you read up on you know, the occult and paganism and witchcraft and so, not that am well read on it, but I've dabbled and looked into certain things, reading up on it. There's different variations of witches, as Dr. Loomis would say, witches. Not witches, witches. There's different variations of it. and different interpretations of what a witch could be. And, you know, there's combinations of, you know, the devil and goats and, you know, horns and, you know, there's the traditional witch, which is witch, W-H-I-C-H, which is the commercialized sort of nice, fluffy North American version, right? We can show that. We can even show witches on television, you know, or show kids dressing up as little witches. Oh, it's cute. But that's not what season of the witch means. You know, that's not what the witch, whatever our witch is, whether it's just a term that's used to be sort of symbolic, or whether there really is a higher witch power that is ascending on the country or the earth, or, you know, whatever it is, right? Like it gets real. It gets real. And becomes very, very dark. That's what I think anyway. I don't know if you guys feel the same way or not, but I want you guys to comment below and let me know your thoughts about what I've said, and then string off of that. Have some fun in the comments section. Just kind of go, you know, take what I've said and build upon it. Kind of like, you know, I say, once upon a time, there was a guy and he was sitting on a bench eating a sandwich. And then I hand it off to you, you know, and you go, okay, the sandwich had mustard on it, and it was kind of do that kind of thing, right? Kind of see, I would love to see what others come up with in the comment section below of sort of, because what might be really cool is you guys might come up with some ideas where I'm like, oh, yes, good job, guys, good job. And then there might be some ideas where we're like, yeah, no. Who knows, right? I mean, there might be some ideas that I'm saying right now that you guys like, I don't know. Because sometimes it's hard when you have a basic premise. That's why in the thumbnail, I said that here's my premise, right? Not here's my story. Here's my my movie. Here's the whole thing. Here's the premise. And a premise is just, here's the basic idea, essentially, of the direction that I think we should kind of go. And then you sit down and you look at that premise, and then you start to weed through it and flesh things out, and things can change, you know, things can change. So, but the thing that you should take from this the most, if you take anything from my ranting and talking about this idea, is two worlds colliding. The innocence of childhood and these invaders that are pretending to be adults, right? They're pretending to be human adults, and they're really not. They're really not. They're aliens. And there's this and there's a lot of symbolism there too, because adults can be very alien to children, right? And children can be very alien to adults, right? There's a lot of layers. I like that kind of thing. I like the nuance and the symbolism, the subtext that we can bring into things like that. So if you take anything from this, that's what I want you to take, is the combining of the two worlds and being very dark, but not Stranger Things-ifying it. This isn't Stranger Things. There's no children. There's no 12-year-old kids going on a supernatural adventure. All right. We never see these kids banding together, riding their bikes, going on an adventure. Do we see kids trick-or-treating? Well, yeah, of course. Can we see kids, you know, the silhouette of those kids? Yes. But when I look at that silhouette, let me bring it up here just because I'm going to, and then I'll go over to the chat, guys. When I bring this up, I'm telling you, man, when I bring this up, here we are. When I bring this up and I look at that, it's so eerie to me. There's a story there. Who are these three? There's a fucking story there. I don't see Stranger Things when I look at that. I don't see this childhood supernatural, you know, I just don't. For me, I see dark, I see mysterious, I see very adult, and I see three kids that, who knows, maybe the shadow on the left there, maybe that's you know, the doctor's son, right? Maybe the one in the middle is you know, his friend, and her name is, I don't know, Julie or something, right? And she's the one that's found dead. You know, maybe the one at the end there is the kid at the front's sister or something. I don't know, but there's a story there, and I don't mean a Stranger Things story. I mean that I see childhood innocence against the backdrop of evil. That's what I see. Childhood innocence against the backdrop of evil. and in a serious horror film, a dark film. That's what I see anyway. That's what I see. And you know, with the red orangey sky and the lamppost there, it's like, fuck, man. You know, these kids are going to die. Like, shit's going to get real. The entire country is going down in a blaze. Like, it looks like fire. You know, it looks like a haze of fire. You know, and it's and they're showing no mercy. That's what I mean. Like, I think there's a lot of potential here to, now, by the end of the show or by the end of the series, do you have a, you know, a somewhat more pleasing, satisfying ending for the audience? Yeah, maybe. But those who die, die. Those who die, die. And they don't come back. They don't come back. So again, I don't necessarily think that there should be a, you know, it's not a kid show, but there is a focus on the innocence of childhood, to bring you into this story, because that's what we know Halloween to be. How many people here in the chat have ever read about paganism? And I don't mean Halloween 2 shit. I mean, actually dove into paganism. I'm sure there's some people, but have actually read about it, you know, and the rituals they used to perform and all the fucking wild sacrifices that, you know, that used to go on and shit, and reading all about that. I'm sure some people have. But I bet you there's a lot of people in here that have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about, because your sole exposure to Halloween is just what you know Halloween. It's trick-or-treating. It's putting on costumes. It's going out and getting candy. And that's what you know. And that's what the vast majority of people know. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's okay. But if you knew your history on where Halloween actually comes from, it's pretty fucking disturbing. To say the least. So, you know, the two worlds colliding. And again, you saw a little bit of that, but I want to bring it up. I want to bring the kids up. And I think it can be done without Stranger Thingsifying it. I really do. I really do. Because all you have to do is just don't have these kids going on an adventure every fucking episode and the adults oblivious and going, where's Johnny? Oh, now, don't do that. It's not like that. It's not like that. That's how I feel anyway. That's how I feel. But for me, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. Comment below and let me know. What do you think? You know, what do you think? You know, do you think it should just be a remake of the first movie exactly the way it was? I think there's so much fucking untapped potential there. So much untapped potential. The only thing that I'm not sure on, that I have to think about a bit more, is how I feel about the kid being charged with either an adult being murdered, which would be really fascinating, right? Or a child being murdered. The idea was to bring the kid into an adult environment before he's either killed, or maybe him and his dad. Maybe it's about him and his dad, and maybe the mom gets killed. Right? His sister gets killed. And now it's just, you know, essentially like Tom Atkins, right? And his son, who have to save the world, so to speak. That might be interesting. And I don't think that would be very Stranger Things. I don't think that's it at all, you know? And so now it's just the son and his dad who have to figure fucking shit out. That's interesting to me. That's interesting to me. Very interesting. Yeah, and I want to see them go through shit. I want to see them go through shit. You know? Yeah, it's interesting. Anyway, let's move over to the chat and see what you guys are saying. Dodd Tartosky says, I'm with Dave. It should be a TV show. Yeah, I think so, especially with what I'm talking about here, because it allows you the opportunity to build and nurture the narrative, because there's so much that you could do. There's so much. I think Season of the Witch has a lot of untapped potential that you could explore, but it's not surface level. Like, I know that what I've been saying here to some may be a little uninspiring and a little boring to some, but it's because I want there to be layers and I want there to be symbolism, because it makes it richer and thicker and more interesting. Even like when you know how to write, and I don't profess to know this, I'm just saying that when you know how to write for that kind of thing and you know how to get into people's psyche, you can affect them subconsciously and you can make them feel certain ways that they don't even know why they're feeling that way, or notice certain things about things in the background or subtext and things like that. And you don't know why you're feeling that way because it's affecting you subconsciously. Kubrick was brilliant at that. Spielberg's very good at that. Nolan is very good at that. When you have good writers who are able to do that and do that very well, it makes the experience much richer rather than just very linear. Oh, it's okay. It's this. It's a doctor, silver shamrock masks, put them on, they kill you. He's got to find out where they're coming from. They're aliens. End of story. Let's just watch all the carnage now. It's like, well, yeah, but let's explore more. Let's go deeper, man. Let's go deeper. Let's go like, whoa, fuck, this is dark. Like, damn, man, season of the witch. Like shit just got real. That's what I want. I want it to be dark. If I see a season of the witch show, I want to watch that going, holy fuck, they killed that kid. Oh my God. I didn't think they were going to do that. Dude, I didn't think they were going to. Did you think they were going to do that? I didn't think they were going to do that. You think he's going to come back? He can't come back. How can he come back? Dude, they actually off that. Holy shit, man. I like that stuff. Now, are there reasons why they would not do that? Yes, of course. But, I don't know. I'm all for that kind of thing. I think it would be cool. To do that. So anyway, super chat did come in. I think there was one super chat that came in. There was a couple actually. Oh God, yeah. Where did they keep the? Maybe it's this. Oh, there we go. Super chat from Anna M. Pops. Thank you, Anna. Says, hi, Dave. I wonder what the new Halloween trilogy, H18, H Kills, H Ends, is going to be called a few years from now. Probably the 18 trilogy. I have no idea. That's a good question, Anna. That's a very good question. I'm not entirely sure. Billy Van sends in a $5 super chat. Says, Dave, do you think H3 would have enough traction to make a profile either on TV or in the theater with the success of H18? Do people just want Myers? It's a good question, my man. I would say that it's a very good question. I tend to think that it would serve better on streaming. Michael Myers is the brand of Halloween, and it is the brand identity. And there are people out there, believe it or not, maybe you're one, I don't know, that don't particularly care about quality. They just want quantity. Now, when you say that, it sounds harsh. It sounds bad. What do you mean I don't care about quality? I care about quality. Well, if you did care about quality, you would understand that you can't make indefinite movies of quality. You just can't. That's why when you go on with films, they suck, because the narrative runs thin, you run out of ideas, you start making stuff up just to keep the narrative going, and it's not organic. And there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, listen, I always hope the movie's good, but if it's not, that's okay with me. I just want to watch Michael Myers tear some shit up. There's nothing wrong with saying that. There's nothing wrong with saying it. Own it. Own it. Okay, great. Own it. But don't pretend that you care about real great quality, because, the general consensus here is that Halloween, Halloween Resurrection is a fucking dumpster fire. You might really like it, but the general consensus, it's not a very good movie. It would be hard to sell people off of Michael Myers. I think with what I've been talking about here today, and I admit I was going hard into the paint and getting really kind of deep there, and because I'm thinking about my ideas as I'm talking to you as well. It's very organic that way. I like things like that because there's certain things that you can say afterwards or during that can feed into my, ideas. We can talk about it. That's why I want you to comment below and let me know your thoughts. Because the only thing with my idea that I'm not sold on is that there's a murder and his child is charged with it. I'm not sold on that. Again, I came up with that idea because I wanted the adult world to start to take over and sort of overpower here. But there's other ways you could do it as well. But I do like the idea that if it is a murder, maybe it's an adult that's murdered. You see, then it becomes personal, right? It becomes like very personal. It's one of them. It's one of the aliens. You know, it's like, oh, fuck. You know, now, they don't know that, of course. And then maybe their entire family gets murdered and slaughtered, and that's it. It's just the doctor and his son. I like that. I like that idea. And it's just the doctor and his son, and they got to figure what the fuck is going on. We have to figure out what the hell is going on here. You know, like, this just got real. And I'm not adverse to killing off the kid either, and it just being the doctor. You know, killing the childhood innocence, killing everything that North America has made Halloween about, killing everything we love about Halloween, killing all the innocence of Halloween that we know, traditionally that we know. And now it's just these aliens and this one adult, you know, that is sort of almost representing, you know, Halloween as we know it. You know, like that. I like things like that. You know, I like things like that, you know, and those things aren't necessarily going to break box office records, but they can make very interesting television, and they can make very interesting watches, because you get really into the characters, and you have that time to develop those characters and those nuances and backstories that you just don't have in 90 minutes or 120 minutes. And that's really cool. You know, we can really, like, and it ends, we're like, fuck, man, I got to watch this next episode. My son just fucking died. Holy shit. You know, oh shit. You know, like, just things like that. But it's got a maturity of like a dark, you know, not the subject matter. That's very complex, but the feeling of it, it's very mature. Like, you watch and you're like, yeah, this is not a kid's show. You know, like, you don't feel that it's a kid's show. Like, 12-year-olds are not going to be into this. You know, I mean, maybe they will be if they're into horror, but, you know, I think you know what I'm saying, right? So yeah, I don't know, man. I think it would probably have more to do with, I don't know, but as successful as Michael Myers, probably not. Yeah, people want Michael Myers, man. They do. Robert Kitzmiller sends in a $10 super chat. Thank you, Robert. Says, pop culture was balls deep into 80s nostalgia pre-COVID. It was. Do you think this break in pop culture has washed out that nostalgia craze? And if so, do you feel it will catch back on? No, it will definitely catch back on. I don't even think really it went away, Robert, because nostalgia is now big business. And it's not just you know, the television shows, you know, it's the t-shirts, it's the pops, it's the figurines, you know, the figures, it's the fucking stuffed animals, it's the merchandise, right? Nostalgia has become a huge business now in terms of merchandise as well. Merchandising. I feel like Yogurt from Spaceballs. I think that was him that said that. So it's, yeah, no, it hasn't gone away. It hasn't gone away. Because it doesn't live and die with Stranger Things. Stranger Things sort of kicked it off in 2016, but there's a lot of other things now, you know, and nostalgia is big business. And then eventually what's going to happen is that there's natural transitions, because, you know, as we get older, I'm 41, I don't know how old you are, but as I get older and as I hit my 50s and my 60s, well, the nostalgia will then be things that are today for the people who are 20 today, who are then 40, right? So Stranger Things will then be nostalgic, actually, even though Stranger Things is a parody almost and a ripoff, not a ripoff. That sounds like a bad word, but it is. It's an homage to the 80s. Somebody watching Stranger Things today, Stranger Things will in and of themselves become nostalgic for people 20 years from now. They'll look at that show and go, oh, you remember that show, you know, in 2016? Yeah, Stranger Things. Oh, you know, and then it just keeps recycling itself, you know, and then whatever is hot at that time in 2030 will be nostalgic in 2050. You know, and what's ever hot in 2050 will be nostalgic in 2070, you know, and we'll be dead and buried. And you know, so it's becoming big business. Nostalgia is the 80s, mostly the 80s right now, and a bit of the 90s is nostalgia right now. But that's because we're only 20 and 30 years removed from it. But you fast forward another 30 years when we're in our 60s, when I'm in my 70s, God, nostalgia will be the shit that's today, you know? You'll look at things like, I don't know, Avengers Endgame will be, looking at Avengers Endgame for some of you, not for me, but for some of you, will be like me looking at the Goonies today. That's what it'll be like. Now, it won't be exactly like that because technology evolves and things change, but it'll be a hybrid version of what we see as nostalgia today, right? Like it'll be nostalgia, but it'll be just an evolution of that, you know? So it's big business, man. It's big business and it ain't going anywhere. So that's how I feel about it anyway. It ain't going anywhere. You guys are amazing. Let's see what we got. Galford's dog says, since the themes of Halloween 3 were propaganda, commercialism, and mind control, yes, very true. It could take place in the October of an election year. You could have people politicizing the events. Yeah, you'd have to walk a fine line in that. You're right, though. There is the commercialization of Halloween, and they were using that. See, that part I like about the original Halloween 3, right? Is the commercialization is using that to their advantage, right? To take control over the kids, to get them to buy the masks. I love that. I just wanted to see more of that. I wanted to see more of it. And I think there's an opportunity to build that up a bit more, you know, and then kind of turn everything on its head and shit gets real. That's how I'm thinking of it. But you're right. Mind control, big part of it. You know, the more I sit here and I think about it, the more I really like the idea of it being a doctor and his son, you know, or it could be a doctor and his daughter. It could be that, you know, whatever. And I don't give a fuck if it's a white family or an Asian family or a black family. I really don't give a shit. You could make the leads Asian, 100%. You could make them black, 100%. Don't give a fuck. Because the story's not predicated on race. Doesn't matter. It could be white too. Sure. Yeah, it could be. But it doesn't matter. Like, to me, it doesn't matter. It might be kind of interesting to have it as two black leads. That might be interesting, you know, or two Asian leads or something like that. I'd be down with that. I'd be down with exploring that, 100%. You know, that was one of the things that, although I wasn't a big fan of the movie Us, I did like the fact that that story could have been about a white family, but it's about a black family. And I always like when things like that happen, because that's how I think that's what you want to do, you know, with race and giving more opportunities is writing stories and more opportunity. Like, there's nothing wrong with having stories that star black people that are about race and about the trials and tribulations and the struggle of being a black person in America, or, you know, whatever the case is. There's nothing wrong with that. That's good shit. But sometimes it can feel like that's not all there is, but sometimes it can feel like that's all there is, but not all there is, if you know what I mean. And I think it's so wonderful when we can see, you know, black men and women taking center stage in stories that just show they're like everybody else. You know, they're like you and me. You know, they have the same desires, the same wants, they're people, man. Just fucking people. You know what I mean? And this whole idea of this different, you know, it's always boggled my mind. It's always boggled my mind. You know, I understand it. I mean, you know, when you learn your history and you read about it, you can understand where it comes from, you know, the systemic side of things. But it's always been like, dude, we're all just brothers and sisters, man. I mean, not that we're created equal. We're not. There are differences in biology, of course. But certainly, I've always thought that, I've always liked seeing that. You know, I've always liked seeing just, you know, this could be a white person, but let's make it a black person. Why not? Because there's nothing, it could be anybody. It could be anybody, you know, and I like that kind of thing. So I would be okay with that too. I'd be down with that. I think that'd be kind of fun. That'd be cool. And it becomes about, eventually it becomes about the son, because then when you have the son or the daughter, but the son with the father, you also have the two generations. You have adulthood and childhood there as well. Right? The representation of almost both sides in this apocalyptic sort of invasion, mind control sort of scenario. Dude, we're getting fucking deep. Like, this is good shit. I'm telling you, this is good shit. We're going hard into the paint today, man. I'm telling you, I love that kind of stuff. It's great stuff. Let's see here. Josh McGrath says black actors have been appreciated for decades. Well, they have to a degree. They have to a degree, but it is a statistical fact that, and this doesn't take a lot to look into, that it depends on what you mean by appreciated, right? I mean, have black men won Oscars? Sure. Have they been nominated? Sure. But we're talking about in the bigger picture, right? You can, and trust me, you know, working in the industry, I can tell you that they're underrepresented in voiceover. They're underrepresented on crew. They're underrepresented in the industry as a whole. Okay. That doesn't mean that there are not great black men and women who have been acting for decades, who are iconic and who have been very present and there and who have been very appreciated, right? 100%. We know that. We know that. But in the big picture, when you look at things objectively as a whole, it's not even close. It's not even close. Robert Thidoff says, Dave, what about a gritty prequel TV series that focuses on either a young Nick Curran or a young Catherine Trammell from Basic Instinct? Is it Curran or Curran? Curran? I think it's Curran. Maybe, but I'm not a big... Basic Instinct, I don't care enough about the movie to learn about that. Really? I'm not a big fan of that. I'm not a big fan of that. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Evil Alex says Denzel Washington and Will Smith are beloved. They are. They are. Again, folks, here's where you have to instill some nuance, right? So I'm not saying that no black actors are beloved. There are lots of black actors that are beloved, right? I'm talking generally speaking, it's not even close, folks. And this can be statistically proven. I'm not here saying that they're not beloved. Will Smith, you know, Denzel Washington, like you just said. Now, name me 25 others. Name me 25 other black male actors that are just as beloved. But I bet you could do it with white male actors, couldn't you? You see. The fact that we have to resort to Denzel Washington and Will Smith, it's because they're easy. It's because, you know, it's kind of like, yeah. And you might be able to get a couple more. But if I said to you to name 25 white actors, name me 25 Asian actors, you couldn't do it. You couldn't do it. So it's not that they're not working. It's not that they're not beloved. It's not that. We're talking generally speaking. And I'm telling you this. Generally speaking, it's not even close. So it's always great when we can hire somebody of a different race without it being condescending, without it being preachy, without it being pretentious, right? Without it hitting you over the head, right? We don't want that, right? That's why I always think it's great when there are stories that can be any race, right? Characters can be any race. It's not predicated on race, okay? And you have somebody who's black that's in there. Is it cool? That's cool. It could be anybody, you know, like that. I like that kind of thing. I like that kind of thing personally. Let's see here. I love this. I love this. Kevin Hart, Lawrence Fishburne, Danny Glover. Yep. And Eddie Murphy. Yep. Michael Jordan. He's not an actor. Keith David. Keith David's great. I've met Keith David a couple times, and he's great. He's great. Love Keith David. Nick P was here. Now here's what people are doing right now. They're Googling black actors, you see, and they're taking their names down. David Lee Barron says, do you believe in extraterrestrial life, UFOs? I do. Yes, I do. I do believe there is extraterrestrial life out there. I think this is an overused cliche, but I think to actually, think that there isn't and that we're the only ones in the universe, I think is ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's silly to be able to assume that there's that we are the only people or the only intelligent life out there. I think it's naive and I think it's silly. No disrespect to people who are extraordinarily religious, who believe that we're the only ones. I think that's a pile of hog dog shit. Don't like it, don't care. Don't care. I think logically and probability, there are trillions and trillions and trillions of stars, billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of galaxies. Now, by probability alone, there are, and it's probably, the universe is probably teeming with life. Now, I'm not talking about Star Trek and spaceships going, choo, 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 choo. I don't mean that. I just mean that it's probably teeming with life. So, I do believe that there is a lot out there for sure. Let me see. Michael B. Jordan. Yeah, Michael B. Jordan's a great actor. Yes, it's great. Isn't it great? It's great. Absolutely. Black men and women are definitely, making their way up for sure. Now, folks, I see everybody's just saying black actors' names now. The question was beloved. That was the question. I could name 45 black men, and of course you can do that. Sidney Poitier, everybody you've said, sure. And he's beloved too, by the way. He is. But again, understand what I'm saying, is that there is an underrepresentation when you look at the big picture. The big picture. And it's not that there isn't representation. We're talking about underrepresentation is what we're talking about. PJ's Classic Trance Channel says, Dave, I think the Michael and Laurie saga has dragged on too long. Yep. What's your views, opinions of them deciding to end the saga and Halloween ends? And how do you... Sometimes I think people just ask me the same questions just to get me to talk Halloween. In Halloween Ends, and do you feel that a Dr. Loomis cameo should pop up? A Dr. Loomis cameo will pop up. We know that pretty much. And how do I feel? No, it should end. It's done. It's over. Zilch, it's done. It's done. Michael's done. That's my opinion. Michael's done. This version of Michael's done. Connected to the 1978 film. It's done. It's over. I don't want any more. If you want to reboot Halloween 5 years down the road and tell the same fucking story over again, knock yourself out. But it's got to end. I don't... Listen, the older I get, the more I realize that I don't know, maybe I'm just curmudgeon. I become that get off my lawn guy. But I really don't... I don't know. I really don't feel... I don't know. There's a lot of things I see that I just don't feel that it's not for me anymore, and I see a lot of things in pop culture, and of course we see a lot of things politically, but in pop culture, I see a lot of things. I'm like, I just don't care. I don't fucking care. But don't you want it? No, I don't. I don't want this thing to go on and 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 on. Like I just, and the fact that somehow to some people makes me not a fan is fucking ridiculous. No, it makes me I'm not a fan because I don't want garbage. I'm not a fan because I don't want this fucking thing to go on for eternity where it becomes this cesspool of stinking pile of springtime dog shit that everybody's depressed over. No, I want it to end. So I can revisit great stuff over and over and over again. But you don't have to watch them. No, that's right, I don't. But I got to listen to all you guys talk about it. No, I'm just kidding. I love you guys. Let's see here. Oliver Mercer says, I find the alien and UFO subject so fascinating. Me too, Oliver. I also feel it's mad to think we are alone, given the overall many galaxies out there. Could not agree more. Oh, it's ridiculous. Of course we're not alone. Of course not. If we exist, there are other species of whatever it is out there that exist. And I'm not talking about microbes or, molecules and no, I'm talking about fully fleshed out intelligent life. Not necessarily like you see in Hollywood with the big alien heads and the grays and the big eyes. And I mean, who knows? Maybe they do look like them. Maybe there's some people, some species out there that does look like that. But that's very Hollywood. So I'm not saying that that's necessarily what I believe is out there, but certainly is there intelligent life out there? Yeah, just the probability alone would tell you that. Folks, we can't even imagine what a billion is. Billions of galaxies. Like, we can't comprehend that. It's too vast for our little brains to even truly understand what that means. We don't even know what the difference between $1 million and $1 billion is so astronomical, no pun intended. We can't even imagine that. Like, it's on another level. Like, these people in the world that are billionaires, they're on a different world. It's a different existence. It's a whole different arena. Do they care about you? No. Not because billionaires are necessarily evil people, because it's just a different world, man. It's a different world. It's like, do we care? Like, this sounds bad to say, but do we care? And not that we don't, but I'm just, again, read between the lines of what I'm trying to say. Do we care about the bum on the street when we're walking down the street? No. I'm not saying that we've never, I have too. We haven't stopped, toss them a quarter or, a couple of bucks or smile and wave, said, hey, how you doing? Sure. I'm sure we've done that at some point in our lives, right? But at the end of the day, do we care? No, we just go on with it because we're so far advanced in terms of our social status, our economic status, our financial status. We're so far advanced from that person on the street. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that we are. There's too many other things we're thinking about. We don't care. We don't care. We don't care. It's the same when you have a billionaire to somebody like you and I. They don't fucking care about you and I. But they can't. It's on a completely different level. Completely different level. It's insanity. It's insanity. When you are a billionaire, like, think about this. Oprah Winfrey is worth about, and you could say Oprah Winfrey, Spielberg, George Lucas, they're all worth about between $3 and $5 billion. Imagine waking up in the morning. Imagine this, okay? Humor me. Imagine waking up in the morning, and we can't. We can, but we can't. Imagine waking up in the morning knowing that you could have anything you wanted. Price was not an issue, relatively speaking. Obviously, if you know what I'm saying. Well, you couldn't have a mansion that was $10 billion. No, you know what I'm saying, right? You could have anything you wanted. You could have anything you wanted. You could go wherever you wanted. Sounds great, doesn't it? But if you're actually living that world, you don't care about the people down below. Not because you're necessarily a bastard, but because you can't. The lifestyle doesn't allow you to. You can't. You just can't. So when you think of billions of stars and galaxies and planets, that's a lot. The probability is so high. It's insanity to say, no, we are the only. What kind of self-centered, egotistical, pretentious, pompous, what kind of view? It's so ridiculous. We have such a. Listen, we are nothing. We are nothing in this world. Literally nothing. I've said this before. I'll say it again, then we'll move on here. I'll take this thing to 1:00 today. The CN Tower in Toronto, right? The CN Tower was at one time, for 31 years, that's right, 30, I think it was 31, the tallest building for all intents and purposes. It's a tower in the world until the Burj Khalifa in Dubai took it over in 2007. Now, since then, there's been other towers and buildings around the world that have eclipsed it by, that many feet, that many feet, that many feet. But the CN Tower to this day is still the tallest building, if you will, in the Western Hemisphere. It's huge. It's 1,815 feet tall. The big observation pod is 116 building stories. And then there's a smaller observation pod, which is 147 stories tall. Just being 113 stories or 116 stories off the ground and looking down from the main observation pod of the CN Tower, everybody looks, it sounds like a cliche, but everybody looks like ants. We do. And we're only like 1,300 feet in the air. Like, there's like 30,000 kilometers. Sorry. There's like, how many kilometers is it from the ground to our atmosphere? Like something ridiculous. Like, we're nothing, man. We look like ants from just 1,500 feet in the air. We're nothing. We're literally nothing. We're so small, so irrelevant in this vast universe. We're nothing. Anyways, sounds like, gee, thanks, Dave. But it's good perspective to have. Like, we think we're all important, we think we're so big and everything matters. Nothing fucking matters. No way, man. When you look at like fucking the world from an airplane and you just look down, you go, Jesus Christ, we are nothing. Like, it looks like a set, it looks like toys. And this is only like 10,000 feet in the air. Holy Jesus. It's insane. It's insane. Anyway. It's wild, man. David Lee Barron sends in a couple here and says, thoughts on Area 51. How about Bermuda Triangle? Area 51. Well, I don't know. I think there's something mysterious going on over there, but I have no idea what it is. And Bermuda Triangle, it's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting indeed. But I'm not sure. I'm more fascinated with the Area 51 Groom Lake sort of stuff, S4 kind of shit, than I am the Bermuda Triangle. David Lee Barron also says, thank you, Darren. David, is there an underrepresentation of Latino actors, actresses in the big picture too? Sure there are, of course. And that doesn't mean that there are not Latino actors and actresses. There are. But at the same time, it comes down to the writing. The last thing any Black actor or Asian actor or Latino actor or whatever wants is to be pandered to be coddled. I don't want that. Now, I can't speak for everybody, but it's certainly not what I want. I don't want to be coddled too. I don't want to, and I would like to think they don't. Like, I don't imagine they want to be given stuff based on race, because what the hell is that? That's why I think it's so great that when you write stories, unless there's a continuity reason why, right? Unless there's a reason why you have to hire somebody who's white, of course, for continuity. I don't think there's any reason why you couldn't hire somebody else for the role. That's how I feel. And I think the more and more movies and roles we have with Black actors, Asian actors that have nothing to do with race, that race isn't part of the subject matter. It's not about their struggles. Those are good stuff too. But I want to see more just showing you that we're all people and we all have the same fears, the same struggles, the same ideas. We're not all created equal. I just mean that we're all going through the same shit, and so I like to see things like that for sure. David Lee Barron says 1 million seconds equals 12 days. 1 billion seconds equals 32 years. David, that is a great, listen to that again, folks. Isn't that fantastic? Isn't that amazing? That goes to show you 1 million seconds is 12 days. 1 billion seconds is 32 years. Now equate that to dollars. Think about that. Think about that. We can't comprehend it. And when you are a billionaire, why would you care about the grocery store clerk? And I don't mean that in a nefarious way that you hope people die. I just mean that you don't care about that. You're working on a different level. It's a completely different level. Completely different level. Completely different level. Live free or die hard, says, the older I get, the more I realize that everything is bullshit and everything works out in the end. No worries. Well, things will definitely work out in the end, whether it's to people's favor or not. I don't know, man. I don't know. Travis Lauderbaugh. I'm always getting this wrong. I know it. Lauderbaugh. I don't care what color someone is as long as it's not that woke, preachy shit. Well, I think it's a good point you make. I mean, I think there is room for stuff that is about heritage and background and ethnicity, and I think that's good. I don't think we should ever get rid of that. But it's also nice to see you want to change the perception of black actors. You want to change the perception of minorities. You want to showcase that we can do this too. We're actors. We have this. You want to change the perception. And how you do that is you write roles, you hire them for roles that anybody could play. But it's about a black family. That's how you do it. It's how you do it. Because if every time we see I'm not saying that this is like this, but I'm saying that hypothetically, if every time we see them in a movie, it's always about the slave trade, or it's always about, it's a show called Blackish, right? Which is, there's nothing wrong with that show. Or every time we see a comedy involving black actors, it takes place in a barber shop, or, if they themselves are perpetuating the stereotype, it becomes very difficult for then a society to see beyond the stereotype, right? And it's so important. Now, don't want those films to go away because they're fun and they're funny, right? And those shows are great. But it's also so wonderful to see just regular shit. That's how you do it. Do you know what I mean? And it's so important. So I'm all for it. I'm totally all for it. 100%. You have a comedy about this family that goes on some sort of, I don't know. And they are out there too, of course, but it's so important to see that more and more. And do we see it more today than we ever have at any other time? Yes, 100%. And are there people that are virtue signaling and being preachy and really, yeah, of course, it's out there too. It's about balance, folks. It's about balance. It really is. Learn from Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's about balance. You know what I mean? You don't want too much of something is not a good thing either. The only thing that scares me, as I've said before, is this inherent desire to remove nuance and context from people's lives. And that bothers me because life is full of shades of gray. And it appears that I say they, I'm just talking about society and where we are. It appears like they want to just, strip all the nuance and context away and just have a very, no pun intended, black and white society that I think I don't think that's correct. Life is full. There is more shades of gray in life than there ever will be very contrasting black and white sort of sides. And you see it in fandom, you see it in politics, there's no nuance, no context, it's very tribal. It's very tribal. We are we've entered in a very tribalism. That's what we've entered into. And it's scary. That's what worries me the most. Neil Rook says, Dave, do you think the character of Chucky would be as popular now if the voice actor was changed after the first two movies? Yeah, I think so. I mean, it depends. It depends. It's hard to say because who's doing the voice acting? What does he sound like? Is he just as good? Is he just as good? Does he sound similar? Why was it changed? Why did they change? Did they change because, I don't know. I mean, I think there's always that potential for sure. I mean, if you listen to the Charles trailer, the fan film to Charles, The voice actor they got to do Chucky in that, pretty fucking spot on. Pretty fucking spot on. So, yeah, I do think it all depends, right? If they changed the identity of Chucky in terms of his voice and his style, and he wasn't like, I don't know, I can't do his voice, but because I have to think about it a bit more. But if it went from like, fuck you, Andy, that kind of like, kind of sound that he has, right? I'm gonna fucking kick your ass. You know how that he's got that kind of sound, right? Well, if they changed it from that to, hey, fuck you, Andy, come on, man. I mean, obviously I'm being, extreme for the sake of it. Well, then, yeah, that's going to be an issue. But if they found somebody that can emulate and bring justice and do justice to the vibe of the character, which I think they would be able to do, then it might have been flawless. And of course, in 88 was part 1, was part 2 90. It was still relatively new, and yeah, I think it's entirely possible, but it all depends on the voice actor and the direction they're given and what are they changing his voice, or are they hiring somebody to come in, and give the best interpretation of that? So, it all depends, but yeah. Gary Rangel sends in a super chat and says, Dave, my man, sorry, just turned in late. Here you go. No problem, Gary. Appreciate that. I'm skedaddling in a couple of minutes here. DMT Infinity says, Dave, if you were to rename the Halloween sequels with names like Resurrection and The Curse of Michael Myers, what would you have renamed them to fit the story? Funny names are acceptable too. Halloween Trick or Treat Motherfucker, and Halloween Michael Bangs Jamie. There you go. There it is. Those are my two. AAA Gamer says, I guess we're not talking about Halloween 3 concepts. We were. You must have just tuned in. Because the show, in case you've noticed, or in case you haven't noticed, AAA Gamer, unless you're talking to the chat room, I've been talking now for nearly 2 hours. And for the first hour and 10 minutes or so, I was talking about my basic premise or idea or kind of direction I think they should go in for Halloween 3. So, but after I talk for it, or after I have a main topic that I talk about for an hour, sometimes less, and then I switch over to the chat room and just answer your questions and whatever you guys want to talk about. So I highly recommend going back to the beginning of the stream once the stream is done, or you can even do that now if you would like. Let me see. Wayne Gotke is talking to Devontae Huntley. Oh, Devontae Huntley's in here. It may be right. Evil Alex says, Robert Egger, director for the remake, and Colin Farrell as Tom Atkins. What's your casting and director's choice? Ooh, that's very good. Well, right now, I don't know. Maybe you get, Tom Atkins. Anybody. I mean, anybody could play Tom. I mean, because he doesn't have to look like Tom Atkins. It's a remake, right? It's a reimagining, but more of an expansion, on what Season of the Witch kind of set. It's more of an expansion. But I would say maybe Mike Flanagan. I mean, he's hot right now, right? So he's somebody that I think could be on the list. I think he would do justice to the source material while bringing it into the 21st century and maybe taking some of the basic kind of premise and ideas and themes. I was really talking about themes on this show today more than anything, I think. Talking about the themes and the direction that I think they should go. I wasn't laying out a blueprint of a plan, right? Concepts, as the other gentleman had said. But I would say Mike Flanagan would be interesting. And then Tom Atkins' character, I mean, you want somebody who's in their, like maybe my age, maybe a bit younger, but I would say my age. I don't know. That's a good question. I will leave that to the comment section below. I have to think about that a bit more, but I like that. I definitely like that. Brandon Gregory says, I got some good ones. Halloween Resilience, Halloween Resurgence, Halloween Retaliation, and Halloween Renaissance. Yeah. Yeah, all the R's, all the R's. Darren Sand says James Corden. Yes, you may be right. You may be right. I think that's actually not a bad idea. That would be funny. That'd be funny. That'd be really funny, actually. All right, folks, that is going to do it for me here on episode 109 of MCRAE Live. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. And hey, if you're watching after the fact or you're watching live, go back, listen to my premise. I was kind of, I was bouncing around as I often do, but pay attention to the themes I was talking about, the basic premise and basic idea that I was trying to put forward, that I want you guys to be able to expand on now in the comment section below. Expand on it, nurture it a bit, add your ideas into it of what you think should happen with a Halloween 3 remake. I think we should have a remake, and the more that I talked on this show today, the more I realized that I think it should be a television series and not a movie. You could do a movie, but you have much more time to nurture and really develop those themes and those characters that I was talking about in this show today, and really building to that apocalyptic sort of full-on mind control invasion of the entire country that we never got to see at the end of the original Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. So I want to know your guys' thoughts. I want to know your guys' thoughts, man. I want to know your thoughts. Comment below and let me know, because I think that would be awesome indeed. Hey, I'll be back, hopefully tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you to all the Super Chats, of course, and thank you to the non-Super Chats that came in as well. Frank Riker goes hard into the paint at the end and says, for the sexy MFers in the chat. Thank you very much, Frank. Really appreciate that, by the way. And David Lee Barron, one last one here, says, Dear Your Majesty, do you enjoy roller coasters? I do. They're one of the only few rides I actually do enjoy because I have a very weak stomach and I can't do the spinny rides. I suffer from motion sickness. So the rides that are going around, like the tilt-a-whirl or the fucking, all that stuff, like even the pirate ship, even that, I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I've never barfed, but I certainly have come close. And with roller coasters, you're always going in a forward motion. You're always going forward, right? So, some roller coasters will go forward and then take you backwards, but it's not dragging you all over the place where your stomach is having issues. So yes, I do enjoy roller coasters. Frank Riker sends in, did I miss a super chat? Let's go back. Let's see if we can get it. Where is your super chat, DMT Infinity? Let's see if I see it here. I don't see it. I'm not seeing it here, DMT. Let's go over here and see if I can see it. It's not showing up on the other screen. Let's check this screen. How far back are we going here? How long ago did you send it, DMT? Well, if I did, right now, DMT, just at me. Don't send in another super chat. Just at me. Put at Dave MCRAE so it highlights, and retype the super chat, and I will answer it right. Oh, it says, nope, you got it, homie. Oh, I got it. Okay, I got it. Perfect. All right, I got it. Folks, you're amazing. Thank you so much. I wanted to talk a little bit of Halloween today just because it's October 1st. And 30 more days till Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. 30 more days to Halloween, Silver Shamrock. 30 more days, folks. In the meantime and in between time, I will talk to you guys soon. Cheers.